Microsoft is releasing some absolutely groundbreaking new updates to their Copilot. And I think a lot of people sleep on Copilot. They forget it even exists. If you have an Apple device, then it might not be like super front of mind to you. But I will tell you, every single new Microsoft laptop that is being sold, millions of units throughout the United States every year, have this on the search bar. And it is, it's hard-coded there. And I have a personal anecdote about this. Connor tells me I say the word wrong. Antidote. It's not antidote. It's not an anti-venom.
It's anic. It's
Anecdote. Okay.
I'm
sorry. It's my Canadian accent coming out. That's usually my excuse for things. All right. My only story with this is that I did just get my laptop refurbished and they just sent it back to me. I use Microsoft as my main laptop. And the first thing I did, and I might change my mind, all right, I might change my mind after we talk about this episode, was remove Copilot from like the default bar, because I'm like, this isn't quite as good as ChatGPT or other things I use. It's not part of my workflow. And so I removed it. Now, we're going to talk about some reasons why you might actually want to re-add it back to your bar if, like me, you made this decision. And then, there's some other cool things. So I guess, Connor, what's the most interesting thing that's happening in this?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think Microsoft is actually playing this really well. I mean, Copilot, I think, like Google, like everybody else, had a rocky start, whenever it was, kind of a couple of years ago or something like that. I think, I love that they brought in Mustafa Suleyman to oversee all this. We're huge fans of him, founder of Google DeepMind, and then founder of Inflection, and just brought him in to really look at what Copilot is. And I think Copilot is really starting to get its legs under it and also just starting to crush it. But most importantly, and Jaeden, this is the big thing, enterprises trust Microsoft. They just do. Yep. And Copilot, when I sort of see it, I started to realize, like, oh, you know what? I think the problem is just like we're not used to Copilot. We're not used to this being integrated in here. And Microsoft has this huge task ahead of it, which is how do we get everybody using this in a new way? And you and I think about this stuff all the time, which is why I've started to dive really deep into Copilot. And the more I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is actually insanely powerful. And it's only getting more powerful, I think. So the latest kind of updates here are, and by the way, you may be a Copilot user right now. So they're integrating things like researcher and analysts and stuff like that. The whole thing here is that if you can think about how a Copilot interface looks, whether you know it or not, right? It essentially looks like a kind of a ChatGPT window. And I talk to Microsoft a lot, and they kind of call that like the center of gravity, right? You kind of start there. And then you can create whatever it is. You can ask it, hey, what do I need to, what's in my inbox? Hey, can you help me write this new report? Can you do all this stuff? And it draws on your own documents, which is what people in enterprise really want. Now, Jaeden, when you add in things like researcher and analyst, which is great at spreadsheets and things like that, the power of this is that this is actually what you need to do in the flow of work. You're like looking at these, you need to do sort of like a whole market research study or something like that. Now with the researcher being built in, these things are all built on these reasoning models that OpenAI built out, sort of like the O3 Mini. I think it's built on O3 Mini. I might have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so all of a sudden, you now have this tool. And by the way, this is one of these things where you say, hey, build out this market research report. It doesn't just spit something out. It looks at all the documents that you have, basing it on essentially like what you do in your flow of work. So all of a sudden, it's not just, oh, well, let me tell you all about market research. It's now looking at all of your documents and making something extremely specific and relevant to you. I cannot tell you the value this is for enterprise. So when we think about, Copilot and like, oh, do you use Copilot or whatever, we're missing the point here. Enterprises trust Microsoft, and Copilot's getting really, really powerful. And I think that this new feature is one of these things that's really going, I don't like saying game changing, but I really do think that this is one of these features that when people realize that this is in Copilot, it's going to be absolutely huge, because it's going to help people actually do their work. And that's what Microsoft is going for. Microsoft knows its job. Microsoft has to change enterprise around the world. And I think that's where it's going. And I'm loving what they're doing these days.
Yeah, 100%. All right. I got to give you all a little bit of pessimism before I bring it back to a positive note, because Connor's very positive. And I actually do think this is a cool tool. I just saw a funny article over on Windows Central. This was back from October. So this was the sentiment I had seen and felt, and why I uninstalled the Copilot from my search bar immediately. And I think today or this week's updates have changed this. But anyways, it says $10 billion investment in OpenAI and Copilot sucks compared to ChatGPT. Microsoft staffers and customers lament Copilot's warm and inviting update, a step backward and absolutely ruined. Okay, you know journalists really like to milk a juicy headline and absolutely rip a company. So that's kind of funny to me. They're like lamenting the $10 billion they invested, even though obviously Microsoft has made so much more than that implementing ChatGPT and everything else into their product line. So that was a major win. I thought that was funny. The real thing that, we're getting to here is there was some struggles that the Copilot was having, and it seems like, they just did this release March 19th, and a ton of new features were added that really make this more useful. So they now have the Deep Thinker. They have O3 Mini on there. This is much, much better. And I think, like Connor said, the reason why Copilot is great, back when I worked in corporate America, yes, everything was Microsoft. We used Microsoft for literally everything. And the ability, and I wish we could have had some of these Copilot features back then, the ability we have to essentially upload any single, document, any spreadsheet, any PowerPoint, into Copilot and have it help edit is just so much of a better user experience. This week was really eye-opening for me on that front. And I felt like Adobe was a little threatened because when ChatGPT came out with their new image model, I'm now in a chat feed talking about editing, like what I used to. Like, I'm a professional at Photoshop, for example. I never use the platform. I hate it because they always change things. There's all these updates. There's all these new buttons. Right. There is 1,000 buttons to learn in Photoshop. I don't want to touch any of them. I never want to think about how to rasterize a layer ever again. Okay, so when I'm on ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, make the logo bigger, change the logo. I upload a logo and I'm like, throw this in the bottom right corner of the photo. ChatGPT could just do it. Okay, so that's incredible. That's the chat interface people want. And so what Microsoft is doing with Copilot is that exact same experience, but just with all of your business documents. You throw a PowerPoint in there and it can help edit it. This is game changing. I think this is how people would actually like to interface with a lot of these tools, is just telling an assistant, an AI, what to do, and it does it for you. You never have to worry about losing track of the button or the settings or anything ever again.
No, I totally agree. I mean, when you think about it, like what people need to do in the flow of work, and I'm with you. I took a while to try to learn Photoshop. I never got good at it. This is the whole point about natural language, like what natural language is going to do for us and will continue to do for us, And why I think Copilot was struggling early on was that it was trying to integrate natural language into all of these applications. Guys, like we're so used to just ChatGPT and, I mean, if you just use Copilot just in terms of the LLM, the chatbot, it's great. It works great. It's built on ChatGPT. Where I think people were saying like, oh gosh, this is just so tricky, is that like they were trying to build this into Word and Excel and PowerPoint and Outlook and Teams and everything else. Like the complication of that, I think we're really underestimating. And so when we think about like what Copilot is doing, we are still in the early stages of this. But like what I want people to see is that when you go on just on sort of essentially Copilot and you have a Copilot Enterprise here, you have this chatbot, and then there's two ways of doing it. You can either just treat it like a ChatGPT and kind of treat it like the web, or you do it where it drags in like all of your Teams transcripts, all of your Outlook messages, all of the documents that you have in there, everything. And now, again, just kind of coming back to these researchers, the fact that it can really do a phenomenal job using Python to analyze spreadsheets, to give you results based on those spreadsheets, to do deep dive into certain things that your researcher will do. It really is getting close to agentic. I mean, what Microsoft calls agents in Copilot, I don't know, everybody calls agents something else. They're essentially just GPTs, but they call them agents. That's fine. Salesforce does the same thing. I don't love that term, but here we are. But this actually does feel agentic, right? This feels like when you have a researcher, it feels like you have just tasked an intern with, and even better than, what am I talking about? An intern. My gosh, it's more like an analyst or something. Task them to go and do something. Now, listen, you still need oversight. You still need to read through that report and everything else, but it produces a report that, I mean, by all measures of everything that I've read and everything I've heard and everything that even when I've tried it, it is as if you have put a small team on something and given them a couple of days to produce a research report. And this thing does it in 5 minutes. And yes, at times it hallucinates, at times it steers wrong, all that kind of stuff. But then all you do is say like, hey, change this, change this. So the power of this, and especially the fact that this is going to be built into all of Microsoft 365 products, it's unbelievable. Now, the big thing that I think we have to think about is like, how do we change behavior in using this and everything like that? But Jaeden, to me, like this is Microsoft understands the assignment, and
Yep.
this is the assignment. It's not about consumer facing stuff. It's about how do we change work, etc.
Yep. 100%. So I do think in this regard, Microsoft is doing quite a good job. We'll keep you up to date because they do keep rolling out new features, and I think they got some exciting stuff slated. So we'll keep you up to date on all of that. I think they've done a great job with their integration with ChatGPT. Listen, if you enjoyed the episode today and if you learned anything new, the number one way you could say thank you is by dropping us a review on this podcast. We are so thrilled to have over 100 reviews from all of you incredible people. And we are now working towards getting 200 reviews. This is our goal for, this is our New Year's resolution for 2025. Connor and I have set this and we're like so excited. If you could do us a favor and drop us a review, it would mean the world to us. And also make sure to check out Connor's AI mindset course. This will completely change the way you think about AI. It has incredible, so this isn't just like a tutorial like, oh, click here and click here on ChatGPT. This is a course that breaks down exactly the mindset you should be using when trying to implement AI into your workforce. And Connor has trained thousands of people on these exact same strategies. He charges thousands and thousands of dollars to do these trainings for people, but you can get his course for, I think, under like $200. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing. So make sure to go check it out. The link's in the description. This will be one of the best investments I think you can make in the age of AI to really educate yourself. So go check that out. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time.